various fraud investigative methods, novel and traditional methods of fraud detection and investigation, and how to spot red flags. And simultaneously, or I should say, thereafter, we would be enlightened by Shri M.S. Mehtaji, who happens to be a chartered accountant and very experienced, seasoned chartered accountant from Mumbai, who would be enlightening us on computer-aided audit tools and techniques, MS Excel as CAD tool. We are all aware that MS Excel is something we use day in and day out, but how to use it as a fraud detection and control tool is important, that we would be learning today. How to find latent errors, omissions in spreadsheets and data, and how to spot patterns of fraudulent transaction, sampling techniques, and various CAD tools. So all in all, we look forward to a very interesting webinar today. And to take us through, we have two brilliant, I should say, world famous, I should say, speakers who would be taking us through this interesting topic. And just to give brief introduction, although both the names don't need any introduction, but for the facility of ready reference of all the participants, let me take this opportunity to briefly describe the big profile of both the speakers. I will start with first Mr. Chaitan Dalal. Mr. Chaitan Dalal is the founder and CEO of Chaitan Dalal Investigation and Management Services, which has been pioneer in investigating fraud and providing forensic accounting services in India. Mr. Dalal has been in profession for last 30 years, during which he has carried out innumerable investigations on fraud and white-collar crimes in India and abroad. He is a chartered accountant and certified fraud examiner. He specializes in fraud detection and forensic investigations. He is also a certified internal auditor and certified information system auditor. He has served on the board of Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, India chapter, and Indian Merchant Chamber. He is the recipient of several prestigious awards, including Tarneja Award in 2003 for the best article on fraud, awarded by Bombay Management Association, and PM Trivedi Memorial Prize for the best feature on standard auditing practice in Bombay Chartered Accountants Society Journal. So this is Mr. Chaitan Dalal for all of us. And similarly, Mr. M.S. Mehta, who is a very seasoned professional. He's a trainer, coach, and motivational speaker. Mr. M.S. Mehta is a chartered accountant and certified information system auditor from Isaka, USA, as well as a certified fraud examiner from ACFE, USA. Mr. Mehta has 30 years experience in management consulting, professional audit and tax practice, and he has reviewed and conducted systems audit and IT strategy, applications, operations, resource and management. In addition to being a visiting faculty with ICI on accounting standards, financial management, information technology, forensic analytics using CAD tools, blockchain technology, etc. He has also conducted information systems audit course for Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal. He has been examined trainer in various seminars for officers of CBI, Bank of Baroda, and other Apex academies, Oriental Bank of Commerce, and NIPSCOM. So we are fortunate today, sir, and on behalf of PhD Chamber of Commerce, I welcome you both, and we look forward to very enlightening and great session today. So with this, over to you, Bhavita.
Thank you, sir. Now, I think before we begin and call our specialist of the today's webinar, now I'll request our Vice President, Shri Pradeep Multani ji, to give his opening remarks. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Babita ji and Naveen ji, both of you, for organizing such a wonderful and appropriate webinar today. Very good evening to all. Welcome to the webinar on corporate fraud control through various investigation methodologies. We have with us today expert panelists, Mr. Chaitan Dalal, founder and CEO, Chaitan Dalal Management and Investigation Services. Welcome, sir. We also have with us Mr. M.S. Mehta, chartered accountant and leading expert. So welcome to you also. And from our chamber, we have Mr. Naveen N.D. Gupta, Chairman, Corporate Affairs Committee, PhD, CCI. Mr. Vijay Jalani will be joining us, the co-chair will be joining us soon. Ms. Babita, Secretary, Corporate Affairs Committee. Ms. Sohail Gupta, also part of the Corporate Affairs Committee. Delegates and participants, friends from the media. As we are aware, corporate frauds have become a threat to organizations in the highly competitive digital environment. Uncertain economic conditions and increasing business and technological complexities have made the corporates highly vulnerable to fraud and corruption today. Fraud can indeed cause great damage to companies, both financially and in reputation. However, with the assistance of sound and complete fraud prevention and management procedures, the possibility of fraud can be reduced to a certain extent. Fraud investigations are not like standard police-type investigations into criminal activity. This is because the majority of fraud investigations begin only with the mere suspicion that a fraud has occurred. In many cases, there is little initial evidence of that fraud, as the nature of most fraud is such that deception is involved in committing and then covering up the crime. However, it is also true that most frauds leave a trail or a series of indicators which suggest a fraud has occurred. The key is to locate those indicators as early as possible in the investigation. Fraudsters exploit a wide range of vulnerabilities, from doing business with non-existent customers like Satyam did to inflate revenues, to execute complex financial transactions such as Enron did to hide their debt. When the fraud is detected by investigators, the fraudsters will continue innovating to cover it up. To prevent and detect fraud, organizations need to be more innovative than the fraudsters and always one step ahead of them. Through efficient fraud detection methods, particularly with the technologies, not only can losses be reduced instantly, but a company can also demonstrate its fraud resolving determination to society. Only when preventive measures and post-response actions complement each other, fraud risk can effectively be a deterrent and controlled. To prevent fraud from happening, organizations must first acknowledge that fraud exists and create awareness among the stakeholders. Organizations should also implement policies and procedures that will help them to seal the loopholes used by fraudsters to conduct their activities. I must say, frauds and poor governance are serious risks for all organizations. High-profile cases in recent years have shown that dishonest behavior not only undermines profits, operating efficiencies, and reliability, but can severely damage an organization's reputation. As corporates and professionals are looking for a rigorous approach to risk management and loss prevention to safeguard business value, this webinar will surely help them to be well-versed with the various investigation methodologies to control the corporate frauds. We look forward to hearing you, Mr. Dalal and Mr. M.S. Mehta. Thank you. Jai Hind. God bless everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And as you very rightly said, that we should have a very good control so that we should not have any type of frauds in our corporate or business houses, and we should safeguard our business. I think for that, we have a very eminent speaker today, and Mr. Chaitan Dalal will be talking about the fraud investigative methods. So I will now invite Mr. Chaitan Dalal to give his views and present his presentations. Mr. Dalal, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here amongst all of you today. This is the first time that I am addressing the PhD chamber, but it's a lovely feeling. And I'm grateful to Naveenji, Pradeepji, and of course, all of you here to have given me this opportunity. It's a great privilege. And thank you so much, Naveenji, for all those kind words about me, about what you said. I mean, it is actually music to my ears, but the proof of the pudding is always, they say, in the eating. And I would go to the extent of saying that if you really want to know the truth about a person, and I'm saying this because I'm a forensic accountant, is to hear about him from his spouse or the spouse, because they will give the correct evaluation. You see, a person will be able to get an X-ray vision of the person who's being given an introduction. The spouse doesn't spare or mince words while giving introductions. But I thank Naveenji, in any case, for giving such a nice thing. Honestly, and in all humility, I don't think that I deserve such high praise. Yes, we have been doing some fraud investigations for a long time, as you said, 30 years, probably more than that as well. But to be classified as an expert, I think that this is something where it's a very subjective thing in nature. Uh, there is no such thing as a successful investigation. Any investigation that happens, whether you ultimately get the culprit, ultimately get what has happened or not. The important thing is whether you've done everything that could possibly be done. And then whatever happens is something that fate only can decide. This line is such that you can't say that, okay, if you follow 10 steps, then you will be able to reach the culprit. Um, anyway, but to come to the main topic, the subject of fraud investigation, new and conventional methods. Now, I'm given to understand that in our delegates, we have a mixed number of people who are professionals from different sides. They could be chartered accountants, they could be lawyers, they could be other industrialists. So I will, of course, try and make sure that I don't talk only about things that probably an accountant can understand. We'll try to go into case studies, which I think would be more easily understood by everybody. What I would like to also just clarify is the time that I would be required to speak for. So my understanding is about maybe 1 hour or a little less, right? I think it's about 40-45 minutes. Am I right? Is that the correct judgment? So I'll fine tune my talk accordingly. Would 45 minutes be better? Because Mehtaji is also here. So I think I shouldn't eat into his time. Would 45 minutes be fine in that case? Okay, so my only request to you, Babitaji, is that around 40 minutes, just give me some kind of a signal, because once I start talking, and particularly now that my wife is not here, I can go on endlessly in that. So please give me some kind of a thumbs up. Okay, so with your permission, I'll just share my screen then. Is my screen visible now, please?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, fine. So we start with today's talk. Now, the agenda that I have is very simple, as I think Naveenji has already described, and so also the other speakers, that we are talking about two things. One is, what are the different kinds of investigative methods which can be used in the current times, and specifically, how best can we spot indicators, symptoms, or as in fraud investigation jargon, it is referred to as red flags. So we'll try to do both of these. And I'll try to take up at least 3 to 4 different kinds of cases to give you an idea of what things are happening in today's world. So everything, I'm trying to use certain case studies in this. Now, friends, in this we'll go by the usual Bollywood style, where if you see any Hindi film, they say in the beginning that any resemblance to any character is purely coincidental, and it is not related to any particular person, entity, and so on. So in the same way, in case whatever I'm showing, maybe I might show a few pictures, exhibits, some video here or there, they are all supposed to be for demonstrative purposes and academic purposes. They're not related to anybody specific or any entity. In case there is a name, it is only again for better understanding. And these days now you have to be so careful. So I have to use my other disclaimers, which I have not mentioned here. No animals have been harmed whilst making this presentation as well. So this is just something which I need to say. Okay. So now fraud investigation. Let's look at different novel and conventional methods. First and foremost, why do we require forensic accountants or fraud investigators? Now, by and large, friends, what I'm going to just show you very quickly, I'm going to go through the documents that all of us come across in our day-to-day lives quite frequently, and I'll just go across with them for a few seconds only. So if you don't, if you're not able to read, or if you're not able to minutely examine them, don't worry. But we just want to all be on the same page. Okay, so let's look at some of the documents that we normally have. Now, this is a communication from the bank. Most auditors require a confirmation from the bank to be able to certify something in the balance sheet. So this is, you can say, a typical letter which comes from the bank. Then this is a typical bank statement. In virtually any audit, the backbone of that audit is the bank statement, because that actually shows the fund flow, the life of what any organization is. Then this is the world over now. Excel sheets are what are used as the electronic spreadsheets for examining any data. So this is just a typical example of some evidence which could be used by either management, auditors, or so on. So data in Excel sheet is supposed to be another thing which is a day-to-day requirement across the world. Now times are changing. Now we have advanced computerized systems. You have SAP, Oracle, you have ERP systems. So we have to contend with using such kind of ERP systems. And this is a typical screenshot of such an ERP system. Then you also have to use sometimes, in order to see whether who's the beneficial owner, nominees, documents like a will, old parchment documents, title deeds. So these are also very important pieces of evidence. So this is one typical example of something that we come across. Then you also use a program like Excel for doing an analysis report to see the reports are exported from SAP, from Oracle into an Excel sheet, and these are then used as evidence. So this is another piece of information that is quite regularly used. Then in the olden days, when a lot of cash transactions were going on, there would be cash receipts. Now we are moving into a paperless environment. So very often what you have is files which are visual files. Now what you see on the screen over here is a picture file. As you can see, it is often referred to as a JPG file or a PNG file. These are the kind of extensions that are normally given to such files. But today's world, these are also now a part of the evidence process that one has to use in business operations on a day-to-day basis. Then in the earlier days, there used to be a check. Now there are RTGS forms. Of course, there are direct electronic transfers also, but this is the kind of information that was used very often by auditors or by people who are investigating. Then minutes of meetings. Everybody relies on minutes of meetings by various committees, directors. This becomes a permanent record for a company. This is in fact a statutory record. So this also is another piece of evidence which is used very regularly. Now, we have even videos. At one time, we had maybe 30 years ago when I was practicing as an average chartered accountant, where all these electronic gadgets were not there. This was unheard of. But now, today, when you go for investigations or even for audits, you even have CCTV footage. Like in this particular case, what you see here is a CCTV footage of a fire insurance claim, and this was given by way of evidence. So now the kind of evidences that are coming are also quite different. Now, when you look at all these, I must have taken a couple of minutes to show you all these different kinds of pieces of evidence that are used or seen by people on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure that most of you would have felt that these were innocent and genuine documents, isn't it? In fact, even in the respective situations, most of the auditors or the chartered accountants or the people in corporate governance, they also believed that these were genuine and innocent looking documents. But the truth, friends, is that each and every one of these, of course, these are slightly adapted because they are made for this particular session, but documents which were like these were all, I'm telling you, all of them were either fraudulent, falsified, forged, or altered, manipulated, or used in some kind of fraud or wrongdoing. Friends, welcome to this unfortunate world of fraud and abuse. This is where we are. Today's world, whichever profession you may be in, you will probably be encountered with evidences such as this, where according to you, according to any of us, or according to even expert forensic accountants, these would probably be termed as innocent documents. But such innocent looking documents could actually have deep-rooted fraud lying with that. In fact, when we do a course for the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and I used to do it some years ago, we used to have a 5-day course where each of these exhibits and more of these exhibits would actually be illustrated as to how the fraud took place, what happened, and in what way it was done. What we'll do is I'll try and take one or two of these in our current session so that you'll have an idea of what kind of things really happen in this world of abuse of fraud. Now, in a conventional investigation, normally these are the steps which are followed by most investigators. That first they decide what is the objective, they get a proper mandate to see what is to be checked. Then they do a collection of evidence by making a direct approach, that is by taking documents which are available, speaking to the persons who are concerned. I mean, it's an upfront investigation. So that is one way. Then you also do a covert or a third party investigation where you have collect evidence from other sources, field work, external sources, and so on. In most investigations, both these are also done most often. Then now with the advancement of the digital investigation techniques, digital analysis is also done. After all this evidence has been collected, then usually an opportunity is given to the people who are suspects or who need to be questioned to come forth, and interviews are taken. If required, they become interrogations later on, and all the necessary steps are taken to verify whether the information that has been collected is reasonable and sound. And once all this is done, then the evaluation of the evidence takes place, and based on which a report is prepared. So this is in a very quick nutshell or a snapshot of how a conventional investigation should take place. But friends, now what happens is when you look around, you find that so many big time investigations, they go on indefinitely for years together. There is sometimes no end in sight. And it's not that the investigators are not good investigators, or that they are not, or that there is something else involved in this. But my feeling is that most of the time, the investigation procedures are stagnating. That means they do not try to go and look in a novel method. Today's world, if you want to succeed anywhere in life, and this is from experience that I'm saying, if you keep on doing the same thing again and again, however good or however correct or authentic it may be, I think your results will be limited. But when you try out new things, certain unusual things, it's like, let's say in a game of cricket, you can have the same kind of length, the bowler can keep on bowling the same length. Ultimately, the batsman will get used to it. But if you have a variety where you have spin, you have a fast bowling, medium pace, different things, the possibility of getting success is greater. The same thing is applicable, I think, across in any form of life, where you try to find new or different ways. So over a period of time in these last 30 years, we have tried different things. We have researched techniques like Benford's law, Loon's algorithm. We have applied the age-old wisdom of Birbal, of Akbar and Birbal times, to find out or to trap fraudsters. We have tried different ways of mirror techniques and things which help us to get a different insight. And these are the things which slightly improve the percentage of success in most investigations. So today, what I am going to talk about is one or two of these which are based on some research or something where times have changed and we need to go into the new world with a different approach. For the purpose of becoming a good fraud investigator, there are actually two basic tenets which are very important. One is that you need to distrust the obvious, and the second one is to apply a 3D vision. Now, both these words sound quite vague on first count, but believe it or not, friends, these are the basics in this. When you say distrust the obvious, what we are saying is that if you're examining any very important piece of evidence, let's say a kind of a title deed or a will or something which is a contract or something which is of high significance, we must use professional skepticism. That means we should always behave cynical about it to see, okay, is it possible that this person could be cheating, this person could be doing something wrong? It's a mental frame that we have to have. So your friends, on a lighter note, let me tell you that in this world of fraud investigations, if you want to be a good fraud investigation, it is very likely that you may not become a good spouse. There are two possibilities in life. You will become either an excellent investigator but a poor spouse, or if you remain a very good spouse, then you will never become an excellent forensic investigator. In my case, I'm still with my spouse, so the automatic inference is that I'm not a great fraud investigator. Okay, so coming back to what we are saying is distrust the obvious. We must learn to make sure that we apply skepticism in everything before we reach a conclusion and say things are fine. Now, in this, our brain also often misleads us. Now, friends, if you can see the picture, Babita ji, just show me a thumbs up. You can see the picture, right? Okay. Now, if you see the picture, your brain, and tell me honestly, friends, your brain will tell you that all these lines which are there on the screen are sloping in some different directions, like some may be upwards, some may be downwards, but that they are not straight. That is the image or the impression you're getting. Now, friends, this is a myth. It's a false understanding. Your brain is deceiving you. We ourselves are getting deceived. These lines are perfectly parallel. They are equidistant from each other. And because now I do a lot of reading of our scriptures, what I understand is that it is this black color. You see those squares which are there in the middle, the black squares. These black squares are supposed to represent the negative emotions that we have, jealousy, hatred, dislike, and all these kind of things which are there, which cloud your judgment. That's why when they say, when you're very angry and you pass judgment, that judgment in a fit of anger is always wrong, because your mind is completely, in a daze. Now here also, if you see that these black colored squares are there, the lines do not appear to be straight, though they actually are. But let me just help you out by removing the black color. Now, supposing when I remove the black color, I've just taken out the black color from there. Doesn't this picture now tell you that these lines are parallel? Now, this is something, friends, which is the reality of life. That in our brain, whatever comes inside, whatever is seen by us, is not necessarily what is the reality. Peter Drucker also, in all his management books, has always maintained that man is governed not by what he sees, but what he perceives. And when you use the word perceives, means what he thinks he sees. Now, this is the unfortunate truth. The moment this black color comes back, you will find that the lines are all slanting everywhere. Now, this picture is very important from the point of view of an investigator, because when even though you may do your right process, you may go and stick to the standard processes which have to be followed and all that. Ultimately, the judgmental value which comes to your brain based on the perceptions. And this is something which probably, maybe if PhD wants, I can give a separate, discourse on meditation and certain techniques, whereby if we try to remove the cobwebs from our mind, this clarity will increase. Your ability to do any work will exponentially increase. Not that I'm an expert, by the way, it is just sharing of experience, but I think it is a very important part in any profession. So the other point that is very important for fraud investigation, for spotting red flags and all that, is that we have to apply a 3D vision. Now, what is a 3D vision? In physics, a 3D vision is something where you see an object from the two eyes with a slightly different angle, and the image is fused in the brain to give you an image of depth. That is how you see these 3D films and all that. Because we have two eyes, we see an object from two different sides. Now, this 3D vision is something which is very applicable, not only I would say in forensic audits, but also in audits, but in any kind of corporate governance related issue. If supposing I rely only on this, say, for example, the bank statement which is given, that means I'm using a 1D vision. That means I'm taking one thing. But usually all auditors or all good auditors will always ask for a balance confirmation also from the bank. There will be, of course, 20 other things which they will also do, but all these are added pieces of corroborative evidence, which when merged together, you get a correct or a more reliable statement. So in forensics, it is even 10 times more important that whenever any attestation, whenever any report is given, one has to apply a 3D vision to get information from various sources. So if you have these two traits, one is to distrust the obvious. Don't believe what you see straight away until and unless you've confirmed it. And by applying a 3D vision, when you get more and more sources of information to confirm it, your conclusions will be stronger and more robust. And because in fraud investigations, very often you may have to go to court, you may have to take up very great legal battles on. It is better that these two kind of traits are built up. Now, I mean, it's very good to talk hypothetically, but let's take it with an example. So as I've been asked to say, okay, how can we find red flags, let's say in documents? Let's start with a simple thing like documents. So according to me, whenever we are examining something which is very important, two questions need to be asked to ourselves. The evidence that you are examining must pass two tests. One test is what we call the test of absurdity or reasonableness. That means if something is being mentioned over there in that particular document, does it sound reasonable? Is it possible? When I say possible, means it is possible to do it, but is it probable? It's not. It's like maybe some very rich man who's $1 billion, maybe rich man, he's not expected to go down and polish his shoes on the road like somebody else will come and do it. It's something which is possible but not probable. So it is a theory of absurdity, we call it. This could not have happened. Whereas the second test that we give is even more serious, which is called the test of impossibility. Can this happen? Like, let's say, can we say, which I'll show you in the next the document that I'm saying, is that, can you say that 29th February 1958, can it be a leap year? It cannot be. So there cannot be a date like 29th February 1958. So this is what we call a theory of impossibility. So if you are to apply these two tests, the ability for any person to see whether something that is given is wrong or not is immediately improved. So let us take one example. So maybe if I can give 60 seconds in this, anybody can go through this will. It's a will which I've just put on the screen. I'll give 60 seconds, and if people can on the chat send to Ms. Babita or to somebody what are the things that make this a fallacious will or something where there is something that is absurd or impossible, it'll be very nice. So I'll just give 60 seconds for people to read this. Okay, so I think that I can give a few solutions here. If you look at this, do you think that this is a genuine will? First and foremost, let us look at the things that we feel are wrong. As I just mentioned a little while ago, 29 February 1958 is the date given in the will. Now, 1958 is not a leap year, right? So that's why the date of 29 February could not have been there. So this is what makes the will false. But there are several other things in the will, like say, for example, this PAN number. If this will was in 1958, did a PAN number exist at that time? No, friends, it was not. The PANs came in, I think, 1996. Then look at this. This is a PIN code. If you can see, what is stated here is 400006. Now, in the year 1958, those days there were no PIN numbers. The PIN numbers came only on 15th of August 1972. Prior to that, it was called Delhi 1, Mumbai 1, or Calcutta 1, and so on. Those 6-digit PIN numbers were introduced only by India on 15th August. So this couldn't have been there. Then, if you look at it, the word Mumbai, in those days, it was referred to as Bombay. It was not Mumbai. And what is most important is that this signature, which was on a felt pen had not yet been invented. Felt pens were invented in 1960. So this will couldn't have been signed by a felt pen. Now, since this particular session is more for Delhi people, I wouldn't blame anybody if they don't realize. But for those of you who are familiar, this address has this theory of absurdity. The address is Varsha Malabar Hill, which is the address of our chief minister here. So now it is very difficult, or it is absurd to think that this person, Lakshmi Chand Rupam Shah, in 1958 had gone to Varsha at the chief minister's bungalow and got this will signed over there. So this kind of a check when you apply on documents, I think that you will develop that ability to be able to spot falsifications, alterations, or making wrongful statements. And believe it or not, friends, it comes with just a little bit of practice. Maybe once you start doing it on a more frequent basis, the initial first 2-3 times, you may not be able to spot the fallacies, but within a very short period of time, all of you are intelligent people, and you will be able to fall in line and be able to spot these kind of red flags. Now, just to make it a little more complicated or a little more advanced thing, in this, but it's the same kind of document again. Let's say this is another will. Now, can you spot any falsification without even bothering to read the contents? And what instrument has been used to make this will? Most of you, I'm sure, will probably say that this has been made on a typewriter, right? I'm sure that this is, Navinji, would you not say that this is the first look that you can give, that it is made on a typewriter?
Yes.
But truthfully, it has not. Like say, for example, if you see this document, it is justified on both sides. no typewriter, particularly the typewriters which were used. I'm not talking of the electronic typewriters, but all the old typewriters, you could justify on the left side, the carriage would return and go back to a specified column. But on the right side, it was not possible to justify it. So this paper, this particular document was actually prepared using a computer. And by using some old torn out faded paper, when you take a printout on that, you can download from the internet certain fonts which are called typeface fonts. So they give you the fonts which are there on a typewriter, with some heavy things on one side and some non-heavy things on the other side, and give you this kind of a thing. And you can make a document which will look as if it's a 50-year-old document very easily. Now, this is the kind of assistance that technology gives to people in today's world to be able to do anything that is so serious. And it is very difficult. I'm telling you, this kind of a thing is very difficult to check or to ascertain whether this is actually a falsified document or not. So friends, this is the first important thing, that if we change our mindset a bit, at least where you're in a very important situation, let's say if you're buying a new property, or if your client is buying a new property, or if you're looking at something about a will or anything where a document or some piece of evidence is important, these two tests, you must spend some time on it to make sure that whatever you are verifying or which you are relying on is free from these two defects, absurdity or impossibility. Now let's look at the modern times. Now, what are the new tools which are coming on in today's world? Let's take the most important thing about KYC. See, today's world, money laundering has become a very big point, and all banks are very, very fussy about KYCs. I'm sure you know that if you want to open a bank account, you have to go through a whole lot of documentation and whatnot. Like you have to give your passport, your Aadhaar card, your maybe salary details, or a passport address, your proof of address, and whatever. I mean, there's a whole list of documents which are required for the purpose of KYCs, right? Plus, you also require to give them your photograph. Am I right? These are the two kinds of documents, or the two kinds of evidences which are required when you make a KYC, or when you want a new account to be opened, either with a bank or an insurance company, or maybe some stockbroker, or any major kind of dealing that you want to do. Your KYCs, your identifications are very important. So in today's world, if you are a fraud investigator, or if you're a simple auditor also, or if you're just a person who wants to verify, or you're in a bank and you want to ensure that the KYCs are authentic, how can you do it? Technology has changed, and now new tools are available. In today's world, when money laundering issues are becoming very serious, where people open a bank accounts in false names. Like Chaitan Dalal may open an account in the name of Chaitan Dalal, in the name of Mahesh, in the name of maybe MS Mehta, in the name of Naveen ji. I may do it. I may get some false documentation and give that. And this happens. And that's how these KYC matters have become such a serious concern. So the issue here is that when an investigator does any check, let's say somebody's asked us to do a review or a study of the KYCs to see whether in a bank where there are, let's say, 5,000 different accounts, whether there are any people who have applied or made multiple accounts, though it's the same person or the same individual. How is it possible to check? Now, the documentary checks are very easy. Today, I'm sure that there must be many amongst you who would be very good in using Excel sheets, very good in using other forms of data analysis, verification of maybe PAN numbers and other cards and all that. This is, of course, there, but these are documentary examinations where you are actually applying some kind of analytical tests. But what about photographs? Suppose me as Chaitan Dalal, I've opened an account as Chaitan and Mahesh and Mr. X over there. I may give 5 or 6 false supporting proofs of address and name and address and all that. But the photograph has to be mine. No? See, if I go to a bank, the banker will ask for at least two photographs, right? And you have to sign across the photograph and all that. So that means the most important or the critical piece of evidence is the photograph. Now, if you have 5,000 photographs of 5,000 people, is it possible to find out whether there could be duplicates? Now, friends, there is technology. Now there is a way. Today, for those of you who are interested, even just to take a trial, there are several tools available on the internet. And I'm going to show you one such tool on the screen right now. If you download them, some of them are free, some of them you have to pay a very small price of maybe 3,000 or some 3, 4, 5,000 rupees, and you can download such tools. Now, how do these work? Let's have a look at this. Now, I have created on my computer a folder which has pictures of friends, relatives, or pictures downloaded from the internet, just to basically test it out. And this also includes, as you can see on the top line, some Lakshmi pictures also. So it's not necessary that they are only pictures of people. It can be any picture. Today, even if you have taken a picture of a stock in some godown, you can even put that also. So you can have a wide range of visuals. The only thing, important thing is it should be a JPG file or it should be a picture file. Now, in this, friends, I'll ask you, any of you, that if I were to give you even say 30 photographs on a folder and tell you, okay, can you identify duplicates? You will find it very difficult, because the human, eyesight and vision has this limitation. You can't keep the imprint of all 30 at one time and decide that these two are the same. It's virtually impossible. But if there are 5,000 such cases, how do you do it? So now this kind of a program is available. Now this, as you can see on the screen, is the screen of a program or a tool which I've downloaded from the internet. For those of you who wish to write down, it is called Visual Similarity Duplicate Image Finder Pro. Now this I downloaded some couple of years ago. So when you install it, and there's some small price which was paid for it, but it is a very, very nice program that I can see, because this duplicate finding is very easy with this. It's such a simple and easy looking screen that you get. Everything is available at the click of a button. So what do we do in this case? Don't worry about this particular bit, but I'll go straight to the point. See, when you go somewhere, if you see on the right hand side, I don't know, can you see here add folder? I'm pointing it out to this place where it is saying add folder. At that place, you have to just identify that folder which I had created. I showed you a couple of slides ago, some 70, 80 photographs which I had collected from various sources of my family, friends, and net. So when you identify that, this software or this application needs only that. Okay, that you have identified, and it knows where to look for. And then right at the bottom, if you go to see, is this place where you have to click called the button called start scan. So once you do that, the rest of the job is left to the software itself, and you will immediately get results. So something like this, you'll get those cases which are duplicated or replicated with the percentage up to which they've been replicated. So I've given you one example at the bottom. Now we can see it's the same person, but with slightly different images or photographs taken probably at different times, but it's the same person who is come in 3 different names. Now this application is able to find this from 70. So if it can find from 70, it can find from 7,000 as well. The difference is only the matter of time. And this particular program is so good that if you can see somewhere over here, it's very small, but can you see that there is a 60%, which I said similarity, if anybody can read. So it can also ask you, to what extent do you want the similarity? Now, why would you want this? See, it's like this, that if I have opened 2 accounts, let's say in the bank or in 2 different banks, the timing may be different. So my face, my features, there may be some nominal differences, or some things of photographs taken maybe 6 months before and photographs taken now. So you can tell the computer that I don't want only a 100% match, even a 90% match or an 80% match, right down up to 60% match. You can ask for similarities, and the computer will tell you with the exact percentage of similarity. Then some degree of human evaluation will be required to determine which of those appear to be really ones to be investigated further, or those which are apparently duplicate. So friends, this kind of a thing, research, I'm not talking anything great about this application. This is an old application now, but there will be newer ones now. One should keep doing research. One should see what are the kinds of informations which are given, what are the kinds of things which are required. If you do a little bit of research, that's what I say, that don't go by standard age-old procedures. Once you keep your mind open, once you keep variety is the spice of life, and that will give you results which are definitely far, far more penetrative than what you will get here. Babitaji, can you tell me what is the time that I have? I don't want to eat into Mehtaji's time, please.
No, you can take another 5 minutes. You can take, please. You can at least wind up, conclude it.
All right. Okay. So I'll very quickly run through another concept which probably many of you may not be aware about. What you see here on the screen is a very simple and innocent picture. In these days, there is now an unfortunate, and I'm using the word unfortunate, because it is detrimental to society and to everybody mankind at large, that there are capabilities, technical capabilities, where you can easily smuggle information by using some simple files like this. Like the word that is used is steganography. That means one can smuggle information in or out. Say, for example, what you see here is a Lakshmi picture, but actually inside that file, it's like a Trojan horse. It can have a full Excel sheet like this. So say, for example, if you are working in a bank, and if you have evil intentions and you want to give data of, let's say, high net worth individuals, or data of people who have had many accounts, or who are, you have a full list of account holders, all this is information which carries a big value in the market. You can sell this information. So if that person sends this simple Lakshmi picture, but embedding some Excel file inside that, he can virtually send a whole file data which can be explosive, and leakage and confidential data can be leaked out. Now, friends, unfortunately, and again I'm saying unfortunately, there are n number of tools available on the internet on this subject of steganography. You go, in fact, I have downloaded one, which for those of you are interested for trying it, just to see how it works. It's called OurSecret, OurSecret. As the name suggests, it has something secretive about it. So you can actually use that software to embed a file, or to open a file where you know that something has been embedded in it. So this kind of a program is very dangerous. And you know, the power of this tool is so great that you can embed any kind of file in any kind of file. That means in a picture file, I can have a Word file, I can have an Excel file, I can have a video file, I can have an audio file, I can have whatever file I want. It can be embedded, and nobody, even if I were to send the file to, let's say, Navinji, it will just contain my picture. Whatever the test he does, he will see only my picture. But if supposing I want to send it to somebody else who's an accomplice of mine, I can embed information which only he will be able to retrieve and take out. Now, this is the unfortunate part, where smuggling of information in today's world, the fraud which relates to money is considered smaller than information theft, identity theft, and all these other kind of thefts which are going on. In some future session, maybe I'll actually show you some examples of how it is used in day-to-day life, but I can maybe show you one or two cases. What you see here is a simple Excel sheet. Now, a steganographic principle has been applied on this. So if you can see the sheet, right at the bottom, you see the total, the row which contains the total, okay? So this total, you can also see that it has the formula on top. So when your cursor reaches there, you see the circle on the top which shows you what the formula is. So the formula says that it is the sum of all those entries lying in the column C from C3 to C15. And this is the total. Now, none of you will feel that there is something wrong, right? Babita ji, do you feel anything is wrong in this?
No, I don't find anything wrong. Seriously.
Correct. No, I'm telling you, most of us don't. But now I'll show you something which will also startle you. Can you see this figure 2, 4, which that arrow has come popped up? You see 2, 4, 5, 2, 8, 4, 4, 2. Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
But if you see the total, that is also the same figure.
Oh.
So how can a subset be equal to a set? Can it? It cannot, no? Now the formula is correct, the Excel sheet is correct, and this is the same version that I've got from Microsoft. So I have not got a different version that I can manipulate it, but today it is possible. I can send you an Excel sheet which will give you certain results. You go and click on the formulas, you'll still find the formulas are also correct, but the results are completely wrong. Now, when these people, the smart people, the very intelligent people, the fraudsters who come into force, they are able to abuse and use these kind of things. And we people are the gullible people. I'm using the word gullible because today, if, let's say, in my office, somebody sends me an Excel sheet and says that this is our working and this is it, I will never even imagine that there is something like this which is possible. I'm telling you, out of all the delegates who are seeing there today, I don't think even one of them would be actually using any sanitization check to find out whether this Excel sheet is free from such kind of manipulations. In fact, we do that as investigators. We have these kind of sanitization tools and methods to find out before we work on a worksheet to see whether this worksheet could be abused or could have been used wrongly in that. So this is something which happens. Take another case, a very simple case. let's say that there are 4 speakers, like Naveen ji spoke today, I'm speaking, MS Mehta is going to speak, Babita ji also will speak a little bit. So let us say there is a PhD chamber, a star speaker contest or something like that. So here, if you say that these are the marks given by 4 judges and the average score as has been given on top, average D6 to D9, I've got the highest marks. So I'm supposed to be the best speaker and I've got a prize of, let's say, 100,000 rupees. But if you look, Naveen ji has got far better scores than mine. See, he's got 9, 9, 9.3, 8.3. So what is his average and what is my average? And my scores are 7, 4, 8, 7.5, but my average is better than his. So I've got the prize. So would you say that I should get the prize or should Naveen ji get the prize? As per this sheet, I'm just giving you this as an example. But you see, this is where we are. An Excel sheet will make sure that whatever you give marks to Naveen ji, even if you give him 11 on 10, ultimately the prize will come to me only. That's the way this Excel sheet has been configured. Now, this is what, I mean, these are some simplistic examples which I'm showing you. I would love to show you something in bigger scams also, but the time limit does not permit me to go into that. But I tell you, friends, it's the basic thing is that one needs to remove our confusions and cobwebs from our mind by having a little lucid and clear thinking, by having um, a clear mind. And that can be possible, as I said, by using practices such as meditation or something to calm our turbulent minds in all these day-to-day stress-related affairs. And towards the end, I just want to thank the entire the group of delegates who must be listening to me, Naveen ji and all the others who are there on the panel. It was a wonderful experience, and just a small message I always give to all my the delegates is that irrespective of whether you understood anything of this steganography or whatever I said, doesn't matter. But this point, what I'm going to say, please try and do, because I think as professionals, as good human beings, one of the things that we need to do is to do a little bit to make this a better place or a better world to live in. Do one good deed a day, do anything that helps somebody else. If we become good human beings, friends, I assure you, I guarantee you that you will become better in whatever profession you are, because a good human being lends fantastic enhancement to the talents and the other skill sets that he has. So please, friends, my best wishes to all of you and a great round of gratitude to all of you here. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dalal. Thank you so much. And you have given us something very interesting. It was interesting to hear you and know so many things I think we have never noticed earlier. And frankly speaking, time is really short. And I think you have given us a chance to call you again, because now I think even we are quite inquisitive to know further, like what all you have in store, so we can also get educated. So I think very soon we will have another session wherein we can call you for further detail. Naveen ji,
My privilege. My privilege.
Dalal sahab, one thing I would like to say, you were saying where you started with mentioning spouses. So I can say in your house, at least you have you with your skills, you have made the life of your better half, Mrs. Dalal, very, very difficult, because with your skill set, she cannot do.
Thank you so much.
I don't want to elaborate, but you would have understand that it's very difficult for anybody to have a husband like Mr. Chaitan Dalal.
You are right. That's why I am not allowed her to come in this room. Otherwise, your introduction she would have spoiled.
But I should say it was a wonderful session, very enlightening, and you have, I can say, it's just introduction that we have got today, and we reserve our right to call you again. You have to, with this type of presentation that you have made, it would not be right on your part if you don't give us another session, full-fledged session, and we would like you to structure the program for the benefit of our members and give us time again, sir. It was
my privilege.
Very
Thank
nice
you so
session.
much. Very
And
touching words, sir. Thank you so much.
because we got so many queries and everybody was praising the session like anything. During the entire presentation, many queries have been raised and everybody is asking. It's just a feeler that we have got, and we are all going back to totally, I should say, going back from the function totally hungry for
Thank you,
knowledge.
sir. Thank you so much.
So you have to come back again, sir. I won't
My pleasure.
conclude anything now.
My
Now we
pleasure.
move to Mehta Saab. Mehta Saab, the ball has been set rolling, and I am aware that we look forward to another very brilliant session from you on very pertinent and relevant topics. Again, computer audit tools, techniques, MS Excel as a CAT tool. Mehta Saab, Dalal Saab has also already touched upon how and to what extent Excel sheets could be manipulated. So in this background, your session becomes very, very important. Otherwise, I'm sure the participants would not have been able to sleep till next time, Mr. Dalal, and you would come back. So at least you will make sure our participants have a good night's sleep today, sir. So not taking much time, it's over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So a very good evening to all of you and dignitaries on this virtual dais, because that's a new normal we have now. And I'm really thankful to PhD Chamber of Commerce as well as Naveen ji for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. And it's really an honor because, apna Chaitan bhai, who is a forensic guru for me, right? So he is also there. So I mean, he is, as you rightly said, I would say, set the ball rolling. Friends, this session would be on computer-aided audit tools. So I'll just share my screen so that we can start with the things. Just give me one moment. So is my screen visible to you, Babita ji?
Yes.
Is
Yes,
it
yes.
visible? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So friends, each data has a story to tell. So it's only our capability how we make the data tell a story. And all these computer-aided audit techniques help us, make the data tell whatever story they want to tell. So numbers have their story. And when we talk of all these kind of things like frauds and all that, so ultimately it boils down to some numbers somewhere. So friends, this session is about computer-aided audit tools. So during this around 40 minutes or so we have. So I'll take you through some of the audit tools which are there. As Naveen ji rightly said, we'll start with Excel as an audit tool. Excel is a wonderful audit tool. Then we'll go to some other audit tools where we'll see, and some other, models which could help us nail down a fraud. Just a disclaimer right at the start, I'll be showing some tools and they are, property of the respective companies. And a general disclaimer about this whole session. So these are my personal views and not necessarily of PhD Chamber of Commerce. So as Deming said, in God we trust, all others bring data. So data today is one thing which is very, very important. And any kind of data analysis, in any kind of forensic analysis, is ultimately data which leads us to insights. And these insights help us find, some kind of fraud or some kind of anomaly, because anomaly, when ultimately, we find the intent behind it, becomes a fraud. It was always felt that Iran election has been rigged. So the results were fraudulent. But Professor Walter Bain, with the help of Benford law, proved that yes, they were rigged, because the results of the election never matched Benford law. The question is, what is this Benford law? So I'll just take a very simple example. All these are, payments made by checks. So we got different payments. So Benford law is about digits and their placement. It's not about amounts. It's about digits and their placement. So if you look at these transactions, the first transaction, the first digit is 1. For the second, it is 7. And then it is 4. Then it is 9. Then it is 8 and 1. And my question is, if we take an entire bank book for the whole year, all the payments made by whatever company you are from during whole of the year, what is the probability that first digit would be a 1? What is the probability that a first digit would be 1? Anybody in the chat? What is a traditional thinking? I mean, say through traditional thinking, what is the probability that first digit would be a 1? Sanjay ji, 1/10 nahi hoga because 0 won't be a first digit, right? 0 won't be a first digit. Atul ji, again, it would be something like, 1/9. So the probability is, a traditional thinking will say the probability is something like 1/9 or something like, 11.1 odd percent, something like this perhaps. But Frank Benford said, no, it's wrong. Okay. He said the probability of first digit being 1 is something like 30%, and the first digit being 9 is hardly 4.6%. He said it's not same. Okay, it varies according to the digits and their placement in a number. And this law has extensively been used in industry, especially in audit industry and the fraud investigation industry. Because if numbers are not matching the Benford probability, then we need to look why they are so. But first, let's look at the logic behind it. So Benford, was working with GEC way back in 1930s. And those days, there were no computers, no calculators. So for calculations, log tables were used. So Benford made an observation that in GEC, all the log tables, the initial pages were dirty, they were torn, whereas in the end, all the pages were clean. So he started thinking, why is it so? And he ultimately concluded that 1 comes first and 9 comes last. So that means 1 is used more and 9 is used less. And he ultimately brought out his paper, The Law of Anomalous Numbers, in 1938, where he gave his observation that the probability or the frequency is not same for all the digits, and it varies according to their placement within a digit. Now, I'll take a very simple example. I've just downloaded the yesterday's Bhav copy from Bombay Stock Exchange, right? So Bombay Stock Exchange publishes a Bhav copy every day. I've just taken the Bhav copy of yesterday from BSE. And these are the scripts which have been traded on BSE, and this is their net turnover. Now, question is, if the theory which you are thinking that it should be 11.1%, so I'm just taking a random population. So in this random population also, it should be something like 11.1%. So let's check. So what I'll do is, I'll just use Excel as an audit tool. Second thing I'm saying is that Excel is a great audit tool. It's got a wonderful way through which you can analyze data very easily. So I'll just use a simple function to get the leftmost character. And I'll just copy this across. I go for the actual incidence. What is the actual incidence? So actual incidence, I'll use the simple function, which is COUNTIF. So you see the frequency is not same. At the outset, you can see frequency is not same, right? It should have been same. So because this is some, all the scripts which have been traded on Bombay Stock Exchange. So I'm just dividing with the sum. And if you just look at the difference, nowhere the difference is more than 1%. In all these cases, the difference is less than 1%. Or at least it is not 11.1% what we initially thought. It is nowhere near to 11.1%. So this is one population, random population. I've not cooked any data. I've just taken a download from BSE of yesterday. So I've just taken the Bhav copy of yesterday, which I'm analyzing. So if you look at the turnover, all these figures closely correspond with the Benford law. So one thing is sure, 11.1% is not right. And yes, Benford law works. So most important thing is, yes, Benford law works. Now, back to our presentation. So the point which I wish to make is that numbers have their story, and in nature, numbers exist. The only thing is we need to find out what are the anomalies and where are the anomalies. Now, question is, why does this happen? Okay, if you look at the paper of Frank Benford, in his paper Law of Anomalous Number, he says in natural events, in events of which man considers himself the creator, numbers exist in geometric sequence. Now, because numbers exist in geometric sequence, so Benford law works. Okay, I'll take a very simple example. Let's say we have a new index which is launched today. Would be 100. Every year, let's say the index increases by 20%. So next year it will be 120 and 144, 173. Next year, 208, 280, 300, so on and so forth. So my question is, if you look at these numbers, how many ones? How many twos? How many threes? How many fours? How many ones? So frequency is not same. And Frank Benford says, because numbers exist in geometric sequence, so Benford law applies. And he says natural events and events of which man considers himself the creator. And dear friends, accounting numbers are a result of events. I've sold the goods, I've received the payment, I've purchased something, I've made the payment. So accounting numbers are all a result of events created by man. So therefore Benford law should apply. Friends, nature is full of numbers. Nature is full of numbering systems, whether we realize it or not. How many of you have seen this movie, Da Vinci Code, or read the novel by Dan Brown? Is anybody in the chat? So how many of you have, seen this movie, Da Vinci Code, or read this wonderful novel by Dan Brown? I'm just waiting. Anybody in the chat? Okay, that's great. That's great, Atul. That's great. Oh, Shweta, again, good. Good. So if you remember the first scene from this movie, or if you read the novel, the first scene where in the beautiful Museum of Louvre, a person is dead and there is something written on above him, "O draconian devil, O lame saint," and there are some numbers written at the top. So the protagonist in the movie, Mr. Robert Langdon, he deciphers these numbers. He says these are Fibonacci numbers. Now, Fibonacci numbers are, where every number is added to the previous. Okay, so Fibonacci series would be 0, 0 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 1, 2, 2 and 1, 3, 3 and 2, 5, 5 and 3, 8, 8 and 5, 8 and 5, 13, and so on and so forth. So Turing has proved that in nature, these numbers are very important. As I said, whether we realize it or not, Turing has proved that the petals of a flower are as per Fibonacci numbers. So if you look at the petals of the flower, either there'll be 1 petal or 2 petals or 3 petals or 5 petals or 8 petals or 13 petals or 21 petals, or all these are, the Fibonacci numbers. So point is, nature has its own numbering system. The only thing is we need to realize what those numbers are, and probably wherever there is an anomaly, any anomaly, we could just zero into on some kind of a fraud or anomaly or error or whatever. So a lot of these mathematical techniques are used, like Benford law could be used, okay, and again RSF and Loon's algorithm, as Chaitan sir mentioned. And there is a very interesting case. Often, Mr. Chaitan Dalal tells about that case where a professor, gives an assignment to all the students to, flip some coins. And he tells them to write them whether they got a head or a tail on a paper. And then he calls for all the papers. So just by looking at that, he tells that so many people have defrauded. They have not actually flipped the coin. They've just written some random numbers. Now, the theory behind it is that when you toss your coin number of times, there is a freak probability that 3 times the same thing would come. means a head or a tail. So because people who are fraudsters might not know about these numbers. So what those students did was they said, who'd know? So they just put some random numbers. So the professor, just looking at the papers, he could tell wherever he got, three heads or tails in sequence, he could tell that these people have actually flipped the coin and others have simply faked. So, nature has its numbering system. Only thing is we need to realize how to go about it. Now, point is, if Benford law works, what is in it for me? Friends, this is a very interesting case where these auditors went to audit a bank, and they were auditing the credit card write-offs. So they did a first digit test. And what they found was the actual incidence of 4 was very, very high compared to what what the Benford law says. Benford law says 0.6%. Actual incidence was very, very high. So when they further analyzed, what they found was all these cases were where there were write-offs like 4,800, 4,900, 4,600. I mean, say all of them were under rupees 5,000. Sorry, I mean, $5,000. So when they further investigated, what they found was in this organization, any write-off of less than $5,000 could be approved by a single officer. And if the write-off was more than 5,000, you need to have 2 signatories for that. So when they investigated, what they found was one of the officers used to get credit card issued to his known people, his accomplices, and later on he'd just write off when the amount was less than $5,000. Now this kind of a fraud could be discovered using Benford law. Let's see a very simple case. All these are vendor payments. Okay. See, Excel is a great tool. Let me tell you, Excel is a wonderful tool which could help you do a lot of data analysis. So I'll just take a simple case again of Benford law. So I'll be using the first digit and the second digit Benford law. So I'll use the function lift again to get the leftmost first digit. And again, I'll use the same function lift. Lift is a function with which you can get the leftmost characters. So what I extract is the first 2 digits out of it. So I get all the first digits and the first 2 digits out of this whole data of all these payments made to different vendors. Now, I could use a simple pivot table to get the frequency of actual payments. So I'll use a pivot table. Okay. Sorry. Now, pivot table is a great tool with which you can spin the data. Pivot means to spin, okay, to change. So I just take, I want to know the first digits. What is the count of first digits? With 1 click, I got all the first digits. Now, because as I said, Benford works with you could find the Benford frequencies. So here also very simply, I'll go to the column total and I got all the percentages. So these are the actual percentages of the data. Now, similarly, I could just find the second digit frequencies also. Now, the second, I want to find the frequencies for first digit also. Sorry. Second, the frequencies for the first 2 digits also. Now, these are the actual incidences. We want to compare it with the Benford frequencies. So I'll just here I have on the right hand side I have the Benford frequencies. Now, similarly, I'll take for first two digits also. I'm just taking the frequencies as predicted by Frank Benford. Now, if you find out the variance, what is the difference between actual and the Benford? So I just take out a variance. Now, again, you see there is a difference from, see, as Benford says, in accounting numbers, Benford law should apply. But in this case, if we look at, there is a difference. 1 has got a difference, again, 7 has got a difference. Now, if we want to look at where the spikes are there, I'd want to look at the spikes out of this. As Excel has got some wonderful visualization capabilities also. So what I want to do is I want to find out the difference, and I can insert a chart for that. So I'll just insert a chart for that. With one clue, I get where are the negative spikes and where are the positive spikes. So I find there is a spike at 7. 7 is varying much from the Benford. So Benford says it should be something like 5.8%. Actual percentage is something like 11.33%. Similarly, I'd also want to find the spike for first two digits. Again, I can use the wonderful functionality of charting, because charting gives you a visual feel. So I believe you can see on the screen with 1 second, what I got is where the spikes are. The spike is at 79. Okay, now spike is at 79. Now spike at 1 is because there is a spike at 79. Now, if I go to 79, what I find is, if you go to 79, I find there is a huge variation. And if I just click on this, because pivot has got a drill down capability. Within pivot, we can drill down. I just double click. I find all the invoices, all the payments where the first two digits are 79. Means I have got an anomaly. Just with couple of steps in Excel. Excel is a wonderful audit tool. Now we see that all these payments start with the digits 7 and 9. And if we add to a fact that in this organization, if the payment is less than 80,000, can be done by the concerned accountant. If the payment is above 80,000, it has to be approved by the senior manager. Now, does this data makes any sense to you? See, with a couple of clicks and the use of Benford law, we are able to sample the exceptions. Benford law very quickly helped us reach some samples which are kind of anomalous. Now we could further go and analyze it. Who was the person who has approved it? Who are the vendors? Are there any split payments? Are there any split POs? So we could go and further investigate. But the point is, Benford law very quickly helped us reach, where we wanted to go. Okay. So Benford law is a great tool. We could further, we could do one more pivot. I could just on this data also, I could create one more pivot, and probably I'd want to know by authorized by. So I'll just go to authorized by, and what I find this out of all these 79,000 payments, 20 payments have been made by this authorizer JCT. So probably I could go and look further at this person JCT. Okay. So Excel is a wonderful tool. And these mathematical tools like Benford, like RSF, like Loon's algorithm, so all these help you zero down to some anomalies, which you can investigate further. So we had a look at how very quickly using Excel, we could zero down on the probable fraudulent payments which were there. using a simple tool like Excel. So I generally call Excel as, your Maruti Alto. Okay, takes you from point A to B. It's economical. You already have it. You don't have to spend any further money on that, right? And ride could be bumpy. You could do the thing in 3-4 steps, but yes, you reach from point A to point B. Now let's see, this is, friends, one of my favorite videos. Okay, now I believe the sound should be there and you should be able to watch this video. This is one of my favorite videos. Just watch it first.
I will take that as a yeah.
So one is a traditional phishing, okay, and another is using audit tools. You simply dive in and get whatever you want. That is, friends, the power of tools. But for that, you need skills. You need to know bungee jumping, right? So you need those skills. You need to have those skills. Uh, how to bungee jump and get the data or get whatever information you want. And the next section would be much like bungee jumping. Okay. Uh, Audit tools help you access any kind of files. They help you access different kind of files. Your data could be from Excel, from Word, from different tools. You can access them. You can reorganize. You can filter the data. You can, say reorganize the files the way you want. You can select any data as per any of your criteria. You could get statistical functions. You could use arithmetical functions. So all these audit tools generally provide you with these facilities, along with some kind of statistical analysis you could do, classification you could do, stratification you could do. You could find out gaps, duplicates. You can join any kind of data. Now, as I said, Excel is more like Maruti 800, okay, or your Maruti Alto. But how about driving something like an Audi? Use of audit tools. Okay, it's more like bungee jumping. Okay. Now, let me illustrate two simple tools to you. First, I'll be using an Excel based tool. Okay. I'm using the same data. I'm using an Excel based tool now. Now, Excel based, you got a simple add-in like active data. Now, active data helps you do all those steps. You can summarize, you can top bottom, you can go for duplicate, aging, stratification, gaps, just with one click. Now, earlier what we had done was using pivot, using left, using all those things. We had found out the Benford variations. Now, let's see how you can do it using a simple audit tool like an add-in to Excel. Data is already in Excel. Data is already in Excel. I want to do a digital analysis. Okay. And I can do many different kind of tests. I can do a Benford first digit test. I can second digit test, first 2 digits. I can do any kind of tests. Okay, along with number duplications, a lot of different tests are available. But for the sake of simplicity, I'll just take 2 tests which I did earlier. I'll do a first digit test. I'll do a second digit test. Okay, using a tool like active data. And active data is an audit tool. It's a computer aided audit tool which sits onto Excel and helps you do pretty much whatever an audit tool is needed for. Okay, now I just want to do this test and I just click it, and in one click, the job is done. Your data is already, the differences are there. Okay. All the data analyzed as per your requirement. Differences charted. In the difference, you can see 7 is more. Your first 2 digits also sorted, analyzed, charted with one click. And you can see there is a spike at 79. So very quickly you can zero in on where the anomalies are. And if you want to see all those 79 transactions, there is a wonderful hyperlink which has been built. I'll just double click on that and I get all the 79 transactions. So I can further go for analysis. So the point is, these tools sit within Excel and make your job much, much, much easier. Okay. Now, this is just one kind of a tool. There are plenty and plenty of tools, audit tools, which are available. And this tool also has got plenty of capabilities which are there. Then there's one more Indian tool, which is ECAT. Now, ECAT is an Indian audit tool, sits onto Excel, and you could do pretty much of analysis on Excel using ECAT. Now, let me shift back to the other tool in Audit, which is IDEA. Now, IDEA is a data analysis tool. It's a standalone tool, can handle a lot of data. The problem with Excel is Excel has got its own limitations. Number one is the number of rows. So Excel has got 1 million rows. So your data cannot exceed 1 million. And in a typical SME using some kind of an SAP or ERP, the data is much, much more than that. So you need some kind of a standalone tool for that, maybe like ACL, like IDEA. So I'll just use a simple tool like IDEA to demonstrate how and very fast, you could do the analysis using some kind of an audit tool. So some of the steps we discussed, like finding gaps and dupes and, doing some kind of analysis, getting any kind of files. I'll be just demonstrating this tool. As I said, the first thing was file access. You can access any kind of files in this. So getting a file is just a one-click job. I want to have a text file. So I've got a text file by the name of policy term. These are all insurance policies. So I'll just take this data and in just 3 clicks, and 3-4 clicks, my data comes in IDEA. Now, as I said, data access is very, very easy with this kind of a tool. The next was, data manipulation. So it's very, very easy. So whenever, you want to do, just double click, one double click, your job is done. Another double click, your data is sorted. So sorting and all these things become very, very easy. I'll just make one more import, and this time of an Excel file. I got a claim file. So in one click, I got a claim file. I got a claim file also. These are all insurance claims which have been made. Now, the power of a tool is you can very quickly get a profile of data. You can very quickly get a profile of data. Now, I could just go to field statistics. I just go to field statistics, and one click, I get a profile of data. How many positives are there? How many negatives are there? Okay. And if I by chance go to date statistics, I get what is the earliest date, what is the last date. So I just, with one click, I can know whether I got a full year data or full period data within my scope or not. Which is the most common day? Tuesday. Now, question is why so? Why are all the transactions happening on Tuesday? Most common month, March, probably due to closing or whatever. Why? What is the reason that most of the claims are happening on, in March? Then if you further have a look, how many claims in January, how many claims in February, how many claims in March, right? And how many claims on a Sunday, how many claims on a Monday. So in one shot, you get all the information which is there. It just gives you a 1 mile view of data very quickly. It gives you macro view of data. You could have feel of the data. Once you get the feel of the data, you can very easily go for, data analysis. You could then determine what you want to do. Now, again, all this is hyperlinked. Now, items on Sunday, one click, what are the items on Sunday? So all these claims have been entertained on a Sunday. And if Sunday happens to be a holiday, the question is, why are all these claims happening on Sunday? And if you look at these Sunday transactions, most of these are for the same vehicle. For the same vehicle, multiple transactions, and all those transactions on a Sunday. The question is, why so? Okay, so it makes, interlinking the data, drilling into the data, having a profile of the data much, much easier using any of these tools. Now, once I have the feel of the tools, one other important thing is when we talk of forensics, the most important thing about forensics is capability of being produced in the court of law. So most important thing becomes integrity of data. Now, all these tools, they don't touch the data. They just give you different views. So I just click on data and my data is back. Means my data has gone nowhere. I just get different feel of the data, right? Different views of the data. Now, other things, as I said about analysis, was you could go for duplicate key detection, right? You could find duplicates, you could find gaps, you could do a Benford law, you could find statistics. So let's do a duplicate key. Now, these are all policies of vehicles. Can somebody tell me what is the field I should do a duplicate test on? Means which all field, all the items should be unique. Anybody in the chat? Which all fields you feel there should not be a duplicate if it is policy data? Engine number, wonderful. Okay, policy number, great, Venugopalji. Vehicle number, again, policy number, right? So all these are unique fields. So if these are unique fields, I'd want to do a duplicate test. So just take this data, I want to do a duplicate test, let's say on engine number. So I want to know, are there any vehicles with the same engine number? So in just one click, I get there are two vehicle numbers which have got the same engine number, which cannot be, because the engine number is a unique field. Again, chassis number is a unique field, and here chassis number is also same. It cannot be. Means there is something fraudulent about it. And if you look at the vehicle, it is PB25C something, which was the same vehicle for which the claims were made on a Sunday. Okay, so again, these are all the entries for Sunday, and for the same vehicle, engine number is same, chassis number is same, means something fishy in there. So you see, with just one click, you could get plenty of data about the things, right? You could find a duplicate analysis just with one click. Okay, in Excel also you can do it, but it'll take plenty of steps. That's the difference between an audit tool and Excel is an audit tool. Excel is a great audit tool. We already have it. It is economical and whatever. But these tools are meant for audit. These are meant to make your job of investigation much, much easier. So I just want to do a duplicate key detection on, let's say one more, maybe on policy number. So I want to do on policy number. I want to see whether there are any duplicates in policy number. So there are no duplicates. So that's good. But again, in chassis number, I found a duplicate, which is an anomaly, right? Now, going back to my data, I want to ask you one question. I want to know how many claims have been made for a specific vehicle. I could easily do it using summarization. Okay, I want to summarize the data based on vehicle registration, accumulating on claims, and in one click I get for the same vehicle what is the total amount of claims made and how many claims have been made. And in one click I can just go for descending order or ascending order. Now for the same vehicle there are 6 claims for the same vehicle, which is not good, could be fraudulent. Okay, three claims, and again HP22 for which the claim was made on a Sunday, again there are 3 claims. Now my question to you is, can the total claim made exceed sum assured? Anybody in the chat, yes or no? Can the total claim made exceed sum assured? No. So sum assured cannot, exceed the claims cannot exceed the total value or the sum assured of the policy. Now I want to compare. These are the vehicles. These are the claims. I want to compare. Is there any case where the claim is exceeding the sum assured? Okay. Now, friends, we got a wonderful facility. We can join various tables. We can join various databases. I'll just go to join, and I'll join this one with the policy database, and I can match based on a common criteria. And in this case, it is vehicle registration number. So for the same vehicle, I want to merge the data from 2 different tables. So they just come into one, and now what I get is an overall field now. Now this is the total claim. this is the policy, and this is the value. That becomes very easy for me to see whether the claims are exceeding the total sum assured, okay, or the value in this case. So it becomes very, very easy to join the cases. You can do it with Excel also, many other tools, but it is really tough. With these kind of tools, it's just one click and you can do it. Okay. Now you want to see, are there any cases where the claim is exceeding sum assured? Now you got a beautiful extraction facility here. You can extract any kind of data according to whatever criteria you feel. So I want to know all the claims which are exceeding the value or the sum assured. So I want to extract all those cases where the claim sum exceeds the sum assured. And what I get are again two cases where the claim is also exceeding the sum assured. So in one click, I've got all those cases where the claim is more than the sum assured. And incidentally, this is another red flag, because these two are the same vehicles for which the claims have been entertained on a Sunday. In one of these cases, the chassis number is duplicate, and there are a number of claims on this. So all these are red flags. Okay, uh, earlier we talked about various red flags. Chetan bhai talked about various red flags. So red flags which lead you to some kind of a fraud. So all these red flags are telling us that something is fishy in here with these two vehicles, with these two policies. So probably some policy has been made, which is being used to extract, or I would say siphon out money from the organization. And maybe the vehicle is fictitious, and to have a fictitious vehicle, to issue a fictitious policy, they've used some credentials from an existing policy like engine number, chassis number, and for that they've issued a policy which is being used to siphon out money. Okay, now these tools are geared toward investigation. These tools are geared towards these kind of things. Friends, I remember I was doing one of these sessions in Guwahati, and one of the CAs came up and said, he said, sir, a typical question we have, sir, kitne ka hai? So I said around 1.5 lakhs or so. I said, sir, sirf sawa lakh ka? I said, yes. He said, it would be a great tool, for a person like me. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm doing a deduping job for some of the telecom companies. So the data was in Excel. There is a new subscriber which has come, and there is a database of existing defaulters. So what he was to check was a new subscriber which has come. Is he an existing defaulter? He said, all my data is in Excel. So it has become so huge. My data has become so huge that it becomes very difficult for me now, to find and know. And Excel, with a lot of data, yes, it becomes very, very slow. And this, he said, I can do with a couple of clicks. So I asked him a simple question. I said, see, there are names. There are names like Mahendra. Now, Mahendra has got half a dozen different spellings. D-E-R, D-A-R, D-R-A, so many different spellings. Agarwal. Agarwal has got another, half a dozen different spellings. A-G-A-R, A-G-G-A-R, A-G-R-A. I said, if the earlier defaulter had a name like Agarwal spelled as A-G-A-R, and in the new application he has put in A-G-G-A-R, can you find it? He said, no, that is not possible. How can you find it? Because the spellings have changed. I said, these kind of tools have got capabilities. They can even find duplicates by sounds, by the pronunciation of the words. Let's see one example. Let me see if I can. Okay, so I got something like Honda. Okay, so I want to find, are there any duplicates? I mean, are there any other entries which could sound like Honda, which could pronounce like Honda? Okay, so I could just go to extraction, and if you look here, there are plenty and plenty of tools for making your investigation easy. Okay, there are plenty of tools which are here. So we got a tool which is called Sounds Like. Now, sounds like not only checks with spellings, it also looks with the kind of pronunciation which is there. Okay, so I want to find sounds like, and I want in the make, comma, I want to find all the entries where the make sounds like Honda. They might not spell like Honda, but I want them to, so it's got a wonderful equation editor also. It checks whether the equation is correct or not. I make out an equation and click on OK. Now see whether it is Honda or it is Handy or it is Honda, means it has brought out all the names with similar kind of, I mean, say pronunciations, which not only investigates by that, it also investigates by sounds like. The sound should be same. Now, these tools, friends, have been made for investigations. Excel has not been made for investigation. Excel is being used as investigation. We are adapting it for, these kind of things. That's why it takes a lot of different steps to do something. But these tools are geared towards investigation. So it's got plenty of facilities. You could do sampling with this. You can relate different files in different manners. You could categorize them. You can explore various, like Benford law has got a whole area here, different kind of Benford's law you can use, find suspicious transactions. So that is the power of, tools. So we can, as I said, now you would have felt the power of tools. I mean, this was more like bungee jumping. So something like, in the earlier with Excel, we use plenty of different steps using a lift function, then COUNTIF function, then pivot, then, maybe making some kind of a chart. Here with one click, you just, it's more like bungee jumping and getting whatever you want. Now, that is, friends, the power of tools. And that is where these computer aided tools, because today the data is somewhere in the, data is behind the systems, okay. So you need technology to grapple with technology, because no longer are the days you had those, manual ledgers or something, or some kind of books. Today data is existing somewhere in the systems, and you need technology to, investigate technology. So all these are technological tools which can help you do data analysis very fast. Uh, Once your objectives are clear, once you've cleaned the data, so it becomes a lot easier, to deal with, to find exceptions. But again, the objectives have to be clear. Now, for setting the objectives clear, first thing which you need is you need to understand your data. And we saw a profiling tool, a statistics tool, which could make our job of understanding the data much easier. Once your understanding is clear about the data, then you could set your objectives and you can manipulate the data the way you want. That is, friends, the power of tools. So this was from my side. And any questions? Let me see. There was something in the chat, perhaps. How and where you can learn these tools? Well, all these vendors, maybe ACL, maybe IDEA, maybe, all these have their own trainings to do. And well, as a part, because I belong to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and the institute also conducts these kind of trainings on these tools. Like we got almost every month we got a training on IDEA, every month we got a training on Excel tools. So that is done by the institute for its members. But otherwise, most of these vendors like ACL or IDEA, they have their own trainings and certifications where you could learn these tools. And Atul says, can you share some good book names? Atul, books about what? I said good book names. I don't get your point. Books about what?
Maybe he's asking for some technical books or maybe analytical books, which you can advise him. So nevertheless,
okay, sure.
we can send them, we can write them back on email and all. So
Sure. See, some good books, when you talk of, forensic and data analysis, especially financial analysis, there is one very good book which is by, which is on forensic analytics. It's a great book, if you want to analyze the data from the perspective of forensics. Okay. And it is by Mark Negrini. Mark Negrini is a South African chartered accountant. He's written a very good book. And there's another by Pamela Manton. It's again a great book, if you want to go for, And Sanjeev says, is IDEA better than ACL? See, market leader today is ACL. Market leader today is ACL because ACL had a head start. But if you talk of ease of use, IDEA is much easier to use as compared to ACL. ACL has got a bit of learning curve, You need to learn about scripts, how to script those queries and all that. Whereas IDEA you've seen is, very much GUI based. So it's got a very good graphical user interface. So where you could just go and build up your queries and do it much easier as compared to. But otherwise, there people who have used tell me that ACL is more robust. It can handle more data. So it all depends on your perspective. Okay, what you want to do. Each has got its own, see, broadly features of most of these audit tools are the same. Okay, finding duplicates, gaps, summarization, stratification, all these kind of things. Okay, but the way it does, it could be different in each of these tools. So ACL is more script based, means you have to write those scripts, you could got to build those models and then work on that. Whereas IDEA is more, I'll say, user friendly. So because it is more user friendly, so you can easily, use it. So if you go on the net, you'll find some tutorials on Atulji, to your query. You'll find, there are some tutorials on IDEA, and there would be demo versions of IDEA available also, because IDEA gives you demo versions. ACL doesn't give you demo versions so easily. So if at all it gives you demo versions, they are valid for 10 to 15 days. So it becomes a chore, after that. Whereas IDEA gives you demo versions which can handle 1000 records. You could just go to anywhere and download a tool. And these tools have got built-in tutorial, they've got a built-in some kind of sample data. You could explore those. And once you feel there is an ROI for that, I think so they're not very expensive also. 1 to 2 lakhs is not a huge sum to pay when you're talking of the power it has, the efficiency it brings in, the kind of time you could save through these tools. Is there any limitation to IDEA ACL? Well, Sanjay ji, ACL IDEA says we got no limitation as to the number of rows or number of records. But again, see, in terms of GB capacities, there could be some limitation. But otherwise, there is not much limitation as far as number of rows, because ACL says unlimited. Right. So these are being used by forensic department of a lot of MNCs who have built models around it. Okay, where these are being regularly used for as a proactive control, as a preventive control. Data is being analyzed based on these tools, and wherever anomalies are there, they are further investigated. Okay, and how industries can do safety in making online payments. Manoj, I don't get your point.
I think I'm just interrupting you, Mr. Mehta, because I think we are also reaching to our timeline.
Sure.
I think this presentation was excellent, I must say, because there were many points which even I had not even heard of. And by going through this, I'm much more educated now, being in a finance department also. It is very good to learn all these things. And I think with all participants must have gained much of knowledge and keeping us asking you for more. And as I said, Mr. Dalal and Mr. Mehta, we are going to have another session, and maybe in the detailed session we'll be having with you. So we will look forward to have your timelines wherever it will be possible, because in the time of COVID, we can meet virtually. And whenever possible, whenever we will have our session physically, we would like to come to invite you to our chamber and interact with you also. Thank you so much. Now, I will request our co-chairman, Mr. Vijay Jelani ji, to propose a formal vote of thanks, please. Sir, please.
Thanks a lot to Mr. Chaitan Dalal and also Mr. M.S. Mehta. And our chairman, Mr. Naveen, has already taken commitment from Mr. Dalal that he has to come again and again, because the cluster are also, renewing their technology and day by day, and they are coming out with the new fraud technology also. So we have to update ourselves. Mr. Mehta, thank you very much. I listened very carefully to you. And for your information, Mr. Mehta, because you are a CA, I'm a council member in the Institute of Chartered Accountants, a government nominee. And I need your contribution to our seminars of on these topics in the CA Institute also at a very frequent speed, because it is a very crucial subject nowadays, and one has to be aware of all kind of threats what can be. With these words, I thank you once again to all both the speakers as well as the participants, and to Babita also. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. And I think to all the participants, if you have any questions further, you can mail us and we will be happy to answer you. We'll be in touch with our panelists and our speaker, and we'll get back to you with your queries and whatever we'll get from your side. And thank you once again, Mr. Mehta. Thank you once again, Mr. Dalal, for your wonderful this presentation, which I'm sure along with me, all the participants must have gained in too much of knowledge. But yes, not the less, we'll be requesting you again to join us. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Naveen ji. I think he is there. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, sir.